Thought you'd see us again, huh? We're back, James. We took our season break. We pulled a Amazon Studios and had a little bit of a.
We have become what we have sought to destroy.
Yeah, remember when 2023 when I was like, "Yeah, stop doing that," and I was like, "Wait, I understand."
Hey, a good break can really rejuvenate.
Perhaps I treated you too harshly.
Sorry, Amazon. I wasn't familiar with your game.
Yeah. But no, we're back for a good. Also, because there just wasn't really anything to talk about.
Well, we tried to find something to talk
Yeah.
about.
We were in this weird conundrum of we don't want to do anything fun for 99 because 100 is going to be fun.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, crap, we got to figure out something to talk about with 99.
Yeah. And somewhat spoiler for a future review, possibly. We wanted to see Godzilla and Kong.
Yeah.
And we made like 4 different plans
Yeah.
to see it, and they all fell through.
Just schedules did not line up
So
between me, you, and Connor.
at the end of the day, we
So it
ditched
goes.
Connor. He's been fired.
That's adulthood.
Yeah. And
Yeah, Connor's still holding out. He's still on strike.
he's sick.
Yeah.
So hope he gets better soon.
R.I.P. Connor. Anyways, we're here because we decided to watch the movie that will depict what happens this November, and that is Alex Garland's Civil War. Joking, of course,
Of course.
but also. No, we just recently went to go watch Alex Garland's Civil War, and I'm glad we did because it was a movie that I snuck up on me. I don't know about for you. You are an Alex Garland fan or a appreciator, I guess I should say.
I was going to say an appreciator
Yeah.
of his stuff.
But me, I have no,
Relation.
not really. No, I know of his work. I
Ex
know he
Machina.
is a both divisive and at times, or provocative and also at times divisive
Mhm.
screenwriter, which I think is fun sometimes.
Yeah.
And so when I saw the promo for this movie, I was kind of like, this is something.
Did you have any expectations going into it other than what the trailers promised?
I just wanted to watch a cool war movie. Was really what I was looking forward to. I was like, this was like if somebody put Modern Warfare 2. It literally, like, spoiler, when they're in DC, even though that's in the trailer, it's literally like I feel like Garland literally played the Modern Warfare 2 levels of when they're in DC because it looks very, very similar.
I bet, yeah.
But yeah, I just really wanted to watch a war movie, and
Do you feel like it
I
delivered
got
on
one.
that promise?
yeah, I got a war movie.
Nice.
So, but what is your history for the folks on your level of appreciation for the man himself?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a fan of his. I think my relationship to him is actually somewhat like a love-hate with his movies because I haven't seen Men. It was a film he came out with in 2022, I believe.
Something like that.
I haven't seen that movie, but everything else I've generally just kind of been like, okay, am I going to get a super, super interesting conceptual idea, and how is it going to get told? It's basically like Black Mirror, but I can stomach it a little better than Black Mirror. I don't like that show at all, personally.
Understandable.
But Ex Machina, I think, was well made.
Mm-hmm.
Annihilation is fantastic.
Yeah.
He did a miniseries for FX called Devs,
Mm-hmm.
which is pretty slow and boring, but beautiful to look at. And so with Civil War, I was thinking entirely, this is a British man doing a movie on modern American politics.
Yeah.
And like the day before we actually like went to see it, I saw online a review that said, hey, this movie is nothing about politics.
I did
at
too.
all.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I guess I have no more expectations about what I'm about to get into. So I was pleasantly surprised at how well this film handled the topic of photography and journalism, which is what it's actually about, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a social critique of war journalists in a way. Well, not in a way. I think that is,
It is.
actually what it is. Yeah. And I think he just decided to go a very, very provocative and controversial way of doing that, which I
Might
think
be-
I appreciate more
Yeah.
because I like you read a review that it was a journalism movie and not a social commentary on 2024 American politics, and I went into that with that mindset of like, don't expect him to go woke.
Yeah.
But I think coming away from it afterwards, I was very, very. I enjoyed it a lot more than I think I would have if I had gone into it with that mindset.
Yeah.
The original mindset.
Well,
Which I think is where a lot of people's problems with the
I
movie comes
guarantee
from.
100%.
Is the lack of, you haven't said, so and so is bad, and it's
Yeah.
like you're actually leading into the same vitriol that like the movie is portraying.
Well, it doesn't help that all of the trailers lean into the Civil
Yeah.
War aspect
Yeah.
of it. And to be fair, the movie is also called Civil,
Civil
War.
War.
Anyway. But I think it's completely understandable why people would feel like the movie was a letdown when they were basically marketed a war film to begin with.
By the way, if you were let down, Texas and California are on the same side in this movie.
Yeah,
so like
that's not gonna-
that's on you.
I
Just
guarantee
and Florida's doing their own thing in this movie as well.
Yeah.
So that one's completely on you for just
well, the Florida one is accurate. It's
Okay,
Texas
yeah,
and
that's fair.
California that's a little like, that's the fiction
Yeah,
in
yeah,
this.
yeah. I thought it was funny.
I half expected the joke to come through about like so many people from California moved to Texas and they just decided to become one
Yeah,
state together.
yeah.
But nah, that's too American a reference for a British man.
It was good. What do
So-
we like about the movie?
My question was going to be, what did you even think about the field of photojournalism before seeing this movie? But what did you think after?
as you may or may not know, I was in the newspaper in high school, so I can not
You
really
have
relate to
Past
anything.
experience.
I can not really relate to what these people go through, but I think it's an interesting discussion to have about like the need to be these topics of war covered and the emotional and physical, really, distress that we put these people through for the sake of news and / or propaganda. I think that's his biggest issue with everything is like these are still humans taking these pictures, and I think that it is a topic that we probably should be talking about more and more.
I think it's interesting, and I didn't think about this because the main characters are, and to be fair, they do work for Reuters, or which is a kind of a like neutral
Yeah.
publication. So they aren't explicitly engaged in propaganda for any one side. There are people who they meet, two journalists who are embedded in the Western forces, and you can tell they kind of have like spite against them
Yeah.
for like picking sides, quote unquote. Whereas the main characters in the story stay like not just neutral, but like detached from everything
They do their own
that is
thing.
going on. Yeah. Which I enjoyed that aspect to the characters and how that informs the way the story is told. They don't like this movie is not about the Civil War almost at
Yeah.
all. Like it's happening, but there's no commentary on it. There's almost no social critique about the war itself or about division in American politics. It's just about the ethics of photojournalism.
They're purely there just to do their job.
Yeah.
Like they're the professionals professional when it comes to their jobs, which is very interesting. Because even
They
they're
enjoy
like,
it.
we need to go to DC. It's like, oh, you guys want to watch the Western forces like win, and they're
Yeah.
like, no, we just want a story. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, that's kind of crazy that people, someone would have that kind of mindset. And I'm sure that's real.
They do,
Imagine
yeah.
of like, when Gaddafi was captured or something like that. I imagine there were probably journalists being like, "Yo, we need to be
We
on
wanna
that.
interview
We need
him."
to be in that convoy.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see him
100%.
get hung." There's some really sick people out there.
I need a quote from him before.
Yeah, yeah.
I was more interested in, because something I knew going into this, and I'm sure this isn't like, this is 100% public and common knowledge, is that there are, there isn't, to an extent, a degree to which sometimes photojournalists like, have actually suffered because they've been too detached from their work. And there are countless stories of real journalists who have committed suicide because they felt guilty for choosing to take photos in situations where they could have done something instead.
I mean, the Kirsten Dunst character has that realization happen to her in the movie. Where in the beginning she's like, the young one, spoiler, the young one's like, would you photograph my death? And she's like, yeah, I would, absolutely. And then, spoiler,
as if that line doesn't set up anything.
A character does die, and she photographs it, and she's then goes on to delete it. And I think it's really smart also to pair her, the grizzled veteran, with the newcomer, right? Like, it's a very
Classic
cliche thing. It's a cliche trope, but it works so well, especially when you're telling a story like this, in the sense of like, hey, you want to do this for a living.
Here's what you have to do.
This is what you have to do, and this is what you have to go with. And when she turns on, she's like, oh, she's fucking crying.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, man. That was funny.
Yeah, it's seeing the thing that you do through another person's perspective for the first time, to be like, oh,
and
we
then
kind of are messed up, aren't we?
What I really enjoyed out of that relationship, though, was seeing. So Kirsten Dunst starts out as the hardo, and the young girl, whose name Jessie, she is fragile, innocent, right, naive. And then you see that kind of flip because Kirsten Dunst is watching Jessie become her, and she's like, "Oh my God, what have I done?
What monster have I created?"
Yes, exactly. Culminating in the final scene, which I guess we can get to in the spoiler section. But
the real spoiler section,
really, really good.
Absolutely.
It was really, really well done. Those last like 20 minutes. But specifically that scene that we're going to talk about was really, really troubling, and also made perfect sense. But anything else?
I mean, I would recommend this movie.
Yeah.
I thought.
What don't we like?
What don't I like? Well,
is there anything we don't like? How do we feel about the war and
the
Civil
only
War?
thing I didn't like, I think, was the soundtrack felt really out of place.
Yes. Okay. I'm glad we got there. When you're playing like 80s hip hop beats, I get it. It's New York. But like. It's a little.
I feel like it was, in a way, Alex Garland's way of being like, I'm not American, and therefore I'm not going to play into the sentimentality that people might feel about a civil war in America. And so I'm going to purposely put this incredibly upbeat garage soundtrack over these scenes just to take you out of it.
The only reasoning I could see behind it,
well, I'm creating that reasoning.
That it's a road trip, so you need road trip type music, right?
Course, yeah.
Think of like, Up, Ice Age. Well, I don't know why those two were the first two that came to my mind.
Ice Age, classic.
There's a literal million. But also because I think he wanted a kind of contrast between like fun hip music versus a very morbid world on the outside of their car. And
I mean, that just creates the mood whiplash, and if that's what he's going for, is that disjointedness, then he did it.
Yeah.
Like, mission accomplished there. It's just
mission accomplished. We got him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only reason I could think of doing something like that. But other than that, I mean, I really enjoyed the final fight, the final push into the White House. Reminded me a lot of Dune in some aspects. All I'm saying is I've seen a helicopter go into a cloud of smoke and come out, and the city is just wide open. I've seen that many, many times, and every time I get excited. The sound effects were amazing. I jumped at times.
Yeah. Very good use of silence.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
which I love always.
Contrasted a little too much with the music choice, but regardless.
Acting,
fantastic.
I thought was pretty well done.
In my opinion.
You felt like the two leads in Wagner Moura and Kirsten Dunst, they felt like colleagues of 30 years.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Like the way they bickered, the way they talked, the way they just like would roll like their eyes at each other or
The only person I'm kind of iffy on is honestly probably Steven Henderson, because I just know the second you meet his character, you know the role
Yeah.
that he's going to fulfill. And so I kind of just
anytime they
wrote
put
it
a
off.
old like
Old wide sage.
disabled man in
Yeah.
a group, you're like, oh,
He's definitely the Gandalf
yeah,
of this team.
we know where this is going.
And so I kind of just immediately wrote off his character
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
his introduction, which isn't to say that like I don't like watching
Yeah.
that his performance.
No,
It's
it was a
just
really
that
good performance. It was
you know,
really somber.
This
at
movie
times, and
definitely
touching.
the characters are all a group of four.
Yeah.
The cliche. You see.
They all have their own
They're
personalities,
archetypes.
but yet they all mesh well.
Yeah,
Um,
because it works.
let's give it up to our guy Jesse Plemons, who's currently on a heater right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one was uncredited too.
Yeah,
You know,
he's
just as
turning
his
into
wife.
Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Or sorry, Guy Pearce. He's on his Guy Pearce thing.
Good catch.
Yeah, I think Jesse Plemons, if you put him in a single scene, and just are like, hey, act,
Do this
Just-
scene and do it with a country accent.
yes,
And he'll be fine.
and then do it where it's like, we don't know your intentions.
Yeah.
Works every time.
Yeah.
Game night when he's interrogating Rachel McAdams and Jason Bateman
Yeah.
about like the game night, and they're like trying to get out of it. He's like, there's just a whole back and forth, but it's a really
Mhm.
really good scene.
Game night, Vice, Irishman. Yeah, I think he should have been credited. His scene is so extended. It's so long. It's understandable.
Also, it's
why they
Jesse
used it.
Plemons.
Yeah. Well, his wife is
Yeah,
also.
It's not like Edward Norton and like what is it, the Crusaders movie, Kingdom of Heaven. It's not like
Oh,
that. Where he's under a mask or something, or his
Yeah.
voice is different. It's literally.
It's literally
we know
him.
that. We know that Jesse.
He's
Plemons.
in all the trailers.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh, whatever. Anyway,
But that was a really. Yeah, we'll get to that scene in a little
what
bit.
would you rate this?
I think I'd give it like an A-.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I'm thinking an A.
I think it's. I don't know how. Well, I don't. The problem is I don't know what I could do to make this movie better, but I also don't hate anything really. Like the soundtrack is iffy, but I don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't
The
kill the movie
soundtrack
for
is
me.
iffy, and the characters are
Yeah,
archetypes, but it's
for the movie
a
that he
great
wants to
movie.
portray. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really, really well done. An hour 50, which
it's
when's the
short.
last time we've seen a sub 2 hour movie is impressive. And I mean, characters win on arcs.
Yeah,
All of them, really.
this is at
So
least
I
for
thought-
me a solid A
Yeah.
with a S ending, in my opinion.
A/S.
Yeah. Well, the ending specifically.
Oh,
is an
yeah,
S.
which we'll get to.
Yeah. But the
uh,
movie as a whole, I
right
would
now.
give it a solid A, in my opinion.
All right.
So go see it.
So that's a spoiler free. We're going to spoil it now. For
Support
10 minutes.
Civil War.
support Civil War. So it's kind of crazy they brought Donald Trump actually into this movie, huh? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
Man, they don't mention the pandemic once. You know that none of the guys were evil because they didn't have Bass Pro Shop hats on.
Jesus Christ.
They're just
Oh,
sovereign
that was
citizens, my guy.
Yeah, nobody asked for avocado toast.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good. All right. Spoilers. The ending. Let's just start there.
Fantastic.
It just built and built and
I
like if,
don't-
if you want to teach how to do tension in an action movie
Yeah.
and do it organically, that is probably one of the better examples I've ever seen.
I don't really remember the last action scene I've seen where I went through it and then realized I wasn't thinking the entire time.
Yeah.
That I was like, this is just perfectly paced so that you never lose focus and your attention doesn't waver at any point either. You're always focused on exactly what you are supposed to be watching. And the rising action builds so steadily that you're always engaged in what's going to happen around the next corner.
Yeah.
And because they're literally going through the White House, they're literally going through corner after corner, and you're always wondering what is going to come next. And then we get the death of Kirsten Dunst, which in the theater was pretty funny because a lot of the people in the audience were calling the kid like a dumbass. I don't know if you heard that.
because it cuts the silence right
Yeah.
as she gets shot or as she pushes her out of the way.
Mhm.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, fuck, this is the end.
Which, like, personally, I honestly thought that the kid was gonna die.
Yeah, me too.
So it was a nice little reversal for me. But I mean, it concludes the character arc exactly how it's set up. So I'm like, it's the promise that was made at the beginning of the movie, and it pulls it off extremely well. And the action doesn't even stop there.
No.
It
Yeah.
continues after that.
There's still like another shootout.
That's just like a single beat
Yeah,
in
yeah,
the moment
yeah.
of it.
Which I think
It's
is
crazy.
the brilliance of this movie is that, you know, you can't really mourn if you were in this lifestyle because it's like
Yeah.
there's still stuff happening right in front of you. Like
The
Wagner
Wagner
Moura,
character
who
doesn't.
was like had a full on panic attack when the Asian guys died. Like he just saw his best friend of probably 15, 20 years just die, and he's like,
We
"Hey,
have to keep
we
going."
have to keep going." And even the girl is like, "What did happened?" And then she just gets up and walk away, and that's like the most beautiful like circle of life that I think I've ever seen. Because that's what it is, right? It's
Well,
Kirsten
yes.
Dunst's like personality has just fully gone into this girl, and
Now,
she
do
has
you-
now become the wartime photographer.
The only thing I can't think of is, do you think the movie is condemning that?
Yes.
How so? Because obviously, it's one thing to say like, okay, you know, her whole journey is to becoming a professional photographer is learning that she has to remain detached and focused on just getting the shot.
Yeah.
And she successfully does that, even up until the very end of the film, where she takes the very last photo of the president.
Which is very cool too, because it's supposed to be Kirsten Dunst. And It's not.
But I don't personally feel like the movie is saying that that is like a bad thing, in my opinion. And that's not to say this movie isn't about those ethics of photojournalism. I just don't feel like the film is actually condemning it.
I think it's just heavily implied because the movie ends
Yeah.
where it ends, and it's like we don't get any resolution beyond that. So it's a really thought provoking ending where you're like, man, that's sad. Is really how you feel.
Yeah.
Is that's sad.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not how it's supposed to be. Is how I felt leaving the theater.
I felt the same way too. I think my complaint is just I wish the movie
Explicitly said
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Which you don't have to do.
Sure.
Nobody is telling Alex Garland what to do.
Obviously.
And he's a great writer because this movie is fantastic.
Yeah. This is a really well written movie.
But from just what I knew going into it, as soon as I learned it was about photojournalism, I was like, all right, this is a guy who loves, like, he questioned the ethics of, like, technology and AI and Ex Machina, and he did, you know, the same of, like, cancer and annihilation, and now he's going to do photography in this film.
He's a very reactive
Yeah.
writer.
Not to say that he's
Which I like.
reactionary itself,
Right.
given that this is also called Civil War.
Right.
But he's British, so
I think
he gets
it's a really good way too. It's a really good example of if you have a problem with the world around you, you write about it, but you write about it using very allegorically. It's
Yeah,
something that I was always taught as a writer.
Now that I think you mention it, verbalizing, I think what it is that I love about the Alex Garland stuff, even if I haven't loved everything that he's done, it's that he dramatizes all of the thematic content in his movies in a way where you still walk away feeling like you understood what the film was about.
Yes.
As opposed to some more artsy films where it feels like they're about nothing at all.
Yeah.
He will always do a good job of weaving the theme through the drama itself.
Even
And
if he might give you a red herring along the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But nevertheless,
Yeah, this is a weird movie for him to be like, yeah, I'm done directing.
I think he just prefers writing, I think. And
He's a very good writer. He's a very good writer.
He's written books, video games, apparently.
Yeah, Devil May Cry.
So, the pinnacle of video game writing. But yeah, this is definitely interesting because he's a great writer, but he's not a bad director either.
No.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
Basically started A24 with Ex Machina.
I mean,
It was like
lot of
that,
people have
Spring
claimed that,
Breakers, and what else? There's a third one, right? Was it Room?
Room, Swiss Army Man. I don't remember which one it was. There was definitely.
Yeah, there was
There's
one around that
There's
time
a few
period.
movies that have claimed that legacy, though.
Here's a question. Oh, wait, are we done with
No,
we're
what's
done
your
with
question?
Civil War? Well, I got a question for
Yeah,
that's not related to Civil War.
that's fine.
A24, are we back? There's some weird trailers in the beginning of this movie.
Those trailers told me we were not back.
But I kind of like that A24.
I mean,
I don't
it's
like
a niche.
the like.
It
Yeah,
has
I
an
like that.
audience.
You're
I'm not
an
a part of that
independent.
audience, though.
No, I'm not either. But I'm just saying, if you're an independent studio, be an independent studio. Don't try and be MGM or Fox or Sony. Like, just make
Just make weird stuff.
Just make weird
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
It's
don't make
healthy.
stuff for the four quadrants like you're trying to do. I hate it.
No, I get your point. They're definitely at a healthy point.
Yeah.
At this, I think the A24 hype rose and declined and has plateaued, and now they can just steadily maintain the same level of weirdness through all their stuff, which, you know.
No, I'm not. I wasn't saying I'm interested in any of those
Well, yeah,
movies.
I'm not either at all.
I'm just saying.
I think I'm slowly aging out of the demographic of some of those films.
Oh, I aged out of the demographic when I turned 20.
But nevertheless, sometimes I forget I'm still Gen Z.
Yeah, right. Is it me who's wrong? No, it's
No,
the kids.
The kids who are only slightly younger than I am.
The kids, as I say, 23-year-olds.
Yeah. Kids, those 27-year-olds,
Yeah.
whatever.
Uh,
Anyway,
good times, good times.
I don't really have any final thoughts on this film. I thought it was
No.
great. Great ending.
Great ending.
Weird choice of music.
Weird choice of music.
Outside of that, banger.
Yeah. Would you go watch it again?
I wanted to watch this again
In
purely
IMAX?
for the ending. I
Yeah.
don't know about IMAX, but I would definitely see it again. Now, that being said, though, this movie sits in a really weird place, I think, because, and I know we're really early in the year, but like this is not immediate contender for like film of the year
No.
or Oscar buzz or
No.
anything like that at all. So it's weird how this film sits in the kind of a gray area, I think. Maybe that's part of the reason why Alex Garland kind of wants to step away from directing, because he's realizing that like while there is critical success for his stuff, there's not enough commercial success to really justify the extra workload that directing takes, perhaps. I'm sure he has some interview where he elaborates further, and I just didn't read it. But like, this is still a great film.
Oh, yeah.
I would show other people this movie, but I don't expect to ever hear about it again for the rest of the year.
Yeah, right.
So
It's like The Killer,
yeah, basically.
where, you're talking about it for a week, and then it's like, all right, that's it.
Yep.
And it's like never to be seen again.
I don't
Or
know. Maybe one day we'll do a deep dive on Alex Garland's,
maybe.
watch all his stuff.
Maybe. All right, we're out of here. Number 100, do we want to tease it? Because I am super excited.
Well, then let's not.
All right. I like that. Let's just say
Are you
the
trying to
action
come
is
up
the
with the pun?
juice.
Trying to come up with the pun there?
Yeah, kind of. I sorted out. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. Anyways,
Yeah, episode 100. We're going to turn up the heat, and we're going to do something amazing.
thank you guys for joining in. We'll see you guys next time.
Whenever that is.
Whatever that is. We promise it won't be too long. All right, bye.